She told me she'd been having a great time. Not an apology, not a phone call, not even the dignity of a real conversation, just a shared notes app document delivered like a business memo, confirming she'd spent the night with the same man who had already torn us apart once before. That was the moment I stopped feeling hurt and started thinking clearly. Because what she didn't know, what she couldn't possibly have known, was that I still held a key to her life. Not a physical one, something quieter. Something she had completely, entirely forgotten about. One tap on my phone, that was all it was going to take, and it was going to cost her far more than she could have ever imagined. I kept that quiet for a few days, and then I acted. Let me take you back to where all of this started. I was 27 when I thought I'd finally found something real. She was sharp, funny, and present, or at least that's what I believed. We moved fast, maybe too fast. Within a few months, I was moving my things into the house she rented with her 2 kids, a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old. And I want to be clear about something. I went in with my eyes wide open. I knew the situation. Single mom, 2 little ones, all the beautiful chaos that comes with that territory. I didn't just tolerate it, I embraced it. I set up my television in the living room, brought over my Xbox, left my iPad for the kids to use. The 8-year-old lit up over Minecraft, completely obsessed, building worlds for hours. The 5-year-old would lose herself in shows and games like the world outside didn't exist. I loved being the person who made that possible. I genuinely believed I was building something worth building. Little did I know, the ground beneath me was already shifting. When you're building a shared life with someone, you start with the small things first. I put my name on the internet account. $30 a month, practically nothing. But in a house with 2 young kids and 1 income, $30 matters. It kept Minecraft running. It kept the shows streaming at bedtime. It kept the evenings manageable. I didn't think of it as a sacrifice, it was just what you did when you were in it. You show up, you contribute, you fill the gaps wherever you find them. And I did every single day. I helped with the kids, I helped with the bills, I was present in that house in a way that I was genuinely proud of. We had a rhythm, a routine. Not perfect, nothing real ever is, but it was ours. I was happy. And when you're that happy, you tend to overlook the things that don't quite add up. You trust. You choose to believe in the best version of the person in front of you. That's the version of yourself that's easiest to take advantage of. And she knew exactly which version I was. 6 months in, the floor fell out from under me. She had been seeing someone else. Not a momentary mistake, not a single lapse, an ongoing thing, with someone she had clearly been choosing over and over again while I was in that house, with those kids, paying that bill, showing up every single day. I felt all of it. The anger that turns your hands cold and your jaw tight. The confusion that reframes every memory you have and makes you question which version was real. The self-doubt that whispers maybe you were the problem, maybe you missed something obvious, maybe this was somehow your fault. And here's the part I'm least proud of. I stayed. I know how that sounds. She cried, she apologized, and I believed her. Because when you've already invested in someone, really invested, you convince yourself that the version of them you fell in love with is the real one, and the version standing in front of you confessing is just a temporary detour. So I moved out, got my own apartment, gave us some breathing room, but I stayed in the relationship. That was my first mistake. For the next 6 months I tried. I genuinely, earnestly tried. I kept paying the internet bill because my name was still on it and we were still together, and if I'm being completely honest with myself, I didn't want the kids to lose something they'd come to rely on. They hadn't done anything wrong. None of this was their fault. So Minecraft kept running, the iPad kept streaming, and I kept visiting, kept helping, kept showing up. Because that's what you do when you haven't fully let yourself accept the truth yet. There were good days, moments where I thought maybe we'd actually turned a corner. Maybe trust could be rebuilt from something this broken. Maybe we were one of those rare, stubborn stories. But underneath all of that, there was always this low hum, a quiet, persistent unease that I couldn't silence no matter how loud I tried to drown it out. I think I already knew. Somewhere beneath all the hope and the effort, I already knew exactly how this story was going to end. I just wasn't ready to be right yet. I was about to run out of time to pretend otherwise. 1 week after our 1-year anniversary. Think about that for a second. 1 full year in, after I had forgiven her, after I had moved out to give us space and a fighting chance. After 6 months of trying to rebuild something from rubble. 1 week after our anniversary, she was gone overnight and my gut was doing what guts do. I asked her directly, had she spent the night with him? That same man, I sent the message. And then I waited. Hours passed. She left me on read. I watched those 3 little dots appear and disappear. appear and disappear. And then, instead of a call, instead of a voice message, instead of any human acknowledgement of what she was about to say, she sent me a shared notes app document, like a meeting agenda. It said, yes, she had, and she was having a great time. Those exact words, that exact phrase, having a great time, days before my birthday. And in that moment, something inside me went very, very quiet. Not sad, not angry. Quiet. Those two things are not the same thing at all, and the difference between them is exactly where this story turns. I didn't respond for days. There's a version of this where I blow everything up, send a message I'd regret, make a call that spirals, let her see exactly how far the damage went. But that wasn't me, not this time. Instead, I just went quiet, and in that quiet, something interesting happened. The hurt started burning off. The confusion lifted. What was left underneath, once all that noise finally settled, was something sharper, calmer, clearer. I wasn't grieving anymore. I was thinking, and thinking brought me somewhere she had never considered. Because here's what she'd forgotten: in the middle of everything else she was busy doing, the internet account was still in my name, still being paid by me. The same $30 bill that had been running her household for the better part of a year, keeping those kids occupied, keeping the evenings from spiraling, keeping her life just a little bit easier every single day. My name was on that account. My login still worked. She hadn't thought about it once since I moved out. She'd been far too busy having a great time, and I had been far too generous. Past tense. I pulled up the app. I wasn't entirely sure what I was looking for at first, maybe just to cancel the account, get my name off it, stop paying for a life I was no longer welcome in. But then I started clicking through the settings, and there it was, a simple toggle. On, off, remote access to the entire connection, sitting right there in my hand. I sat with it for almost a full hour. And I want to be honest with you about something. I thought about those kids. I genuinely did. I knew what that Wi-Fi meant to their days. The Minecraft world the 8-year-old had been building for months, piece by careful piece. The shows the 5-year-old used to wind down at bedtime. The way those screens kept the peace during dinner, during homework, during the chaos of getting 2 children through a nighttime routine. I knew exactly what I would be disrupting and for how long. But here's what I kept coming back to. I had been the one providing that stability. Quietly, willingly, every single month, because I cared about those kids, and that generosity had been treated like a permanent feature of the landscape, by someone who had now, twice, decided I was disposable. The toggle was right there. Remember when I said she had no idea I still had access? Well, here's where that matters. Sitting alone in my apartment, the same apartment I'd moved to the first time she did this, I made a decision. Not in a rage, not on impulse. Deliberately and calmly, and with complete awareness of what I was doing and why. I thought about her coming home after a long day. Kids already wound up, already asking for Minecraft before she'd even set her keys down, already reaching for the iPad. I thought about her going to the router, turning everything on and being met with nothing, that spinning wheel, the dead connection. I imagined her first assuming it was a glitch, resetting the router, waiting, resetting it again, then calling the provider, being put on hold. Being told eventually that the account was managed by someone else entirely and she had no authority over it. And then, maybe, after a long enough pause, the slow dawning realization of exactly who that someone else was. I didn't give it another second of deliberation. I pressed the toggle. One tap. The Wi-Fi went dark. I set the phone face down on the counter and made dinner. I'll never know exactly what that evening looked like inside her house. I can only imagine. But I know those kids and I know that household, and I can paint the picture clearly enough. The 8-year-old's Minecraft world refusing to load. Confusion turning to frustration, turning to a full meltdown. The 5-year-old's iPad spinning and delivering nothing but a loading circle. The noise escalating. The chaos compounding. And her, already carrying everything she'd done. Already managing a household alone, suddenly unable to reach for the one tool that kept things manageable. No streaming. No games. No digital peace on demand, just 2 frustrated, loud kids and a very quiet, very still router that no amount of resetting was ever going to fix that night. Every parent in the world knows what it feels like to lose that lifeline without warning, the chaos that floods in the second those screens go dark. I had been the one providing it, quietly every single month because I cared about those kids and because that's who I am. She treated that as background noise. She treated me as background noise. Cold karma doesn't always arrive loud. Sometimes it just arrives as an off switch. In the dark, on a Tuesday. That was 9 months ago now. I canceled the account a few days later, transferred it out of my name, and cut the last thread connecting me to that chapter. The TV and the Xbox I left not for her, but for the kids. They hadn't done anything wrong, and those things had become part of their world. I went back for the iPad eventually. She never once said a word to me about the Wi-Fi, not a single word. Maybe she assumed it was a billing error that sorted itself out. Maybe she figured out exactly what happened and couldn't bring herself to acknowledge it. Maybe she called the provider, got told the account was managed by someone else, and understood in that moment precisely who that someone was. I genuinely don't know. What I do know is this. Some people move through the world assuming the good things around them are permanent features. That generosity has no source, no conditions, no limit. They take and assume the kindness will just keep flowing. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply stop. If this hit home, drop a like and subscribe. We post fresh karma every single day.